thought. So it might be just a good sample to go by, even though it isn't related to the industry here today. So let me know, do you have any questions? Yes.
We consider the internship as a capstone experience. It's the final thing that they do in the program. Is that your experience of how they're normally set in a student's progression through a program? It's the last thing they do?
It can be, though not always. Internships come in so many different shapes and sizes. And I've been noticing more and more that they're progressive. So a student can have upwards of 3 to 5, 6 internships during their college career, one of which may be a capstone experience. But they may have smaller, maybe less involved. They'll get progressively more involved, progressively more difficult, to where they end up being a capstone. Yes, GSU has a number of different programs that have credit-bearing capstone experiences. And they are kind of the culminating piece, certainly, where they're out in the field bringing the bulk of the knowledge they've gained through college, throughout their college experience, into industry, into a formidable experience. But perhaps in their sophomore and junior year, they had a less, I don't want to really downplay it, but really not quite as involved. They're growing progressively in skills and in knowledge base. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I would like to ask, there are times when we have students or postdocs in training that they are federally supported. At that time, they can't really just go for 2 months or 3 months full-time somewhere.
Sure.
Is there a value of an internship that is, let's say, 10 hours a week over a semester? Have you seen this model?
Yes.
And how would you approach that type of model?
Absolutely, and actually that is sort of when it comes to undergrad work in particular, and so coming from that perspective, when students are in school full-time during the academic year, an internship, whether it's for credit or not, equates to either a part-time job or one class, which is approximately somewhere between, it's really ranges, but it can be somewhere between 8 to 12 to 20 hours in the field a week. But it really is comparable to a class where you'd gain credit or a part-time job. So yes, I absolutely. Then in the summer, they're doing a full-time experience.
Right.
That tends to be the pattern, but not always.
Can you comment on the effectiveness of one format versus the other? Like, if we do the 10 hours per week, 8 hours per week, versus a total immersion for 2 consecutive months, 3 months.
I think I'm going to throw that out there and ask everyone. Can I get some? I can give you my opinion on it in kind of intuitive sense and what anecdotally, but I've been talking a lot. So, anybody want to comment? Yes.
My name is Sandra Mattis. I work with Noranco, which is one of the Johnson & Johnson companies. We're at Athens, Georgia. We use all varieties. Our core program is a co-op rotation program where we have students do 3 rotations and they work full time. I also have a series of internships for different business departments where they can range anywhere from 8 hours a week to full-time. It really depends on how well that business function, that department, and that department manager structures the work and what the student needs to get out of it. I've seen success in all different types, but one of the key factors is how well that student and that manager are interacting to make sure that all those goals and objectives are being met, both from the student's learning perspective and the organization's desire to have something completed at the end of that term. So it really is very independently based on the student and what the project is.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I think that I know it's tricky and it takes a lot of, it's probably an ongoing kind of a conversation, but I think one of the most effective, if you're going to use interns effectively, bringing them on board, not just when it works for their schedule, but when it works for you, when you have the most work going on and it fills a need and they're going to be learning, is beautiful. If you're bringing them on board in the summer and nothing's happening, then, it may be perfect for them, but they're not really gaining as much, or maybe perfect for them, but you're not gaining as much, you're not getting as much out of it. But it's tricky, so. Other questions or comments? Yes.
I know we found that with the shorter term, longer period works for companies that want to introduce the intern to multiple aspects of their industry. So they want them to get a taste of the whole company, not just one specific area. And then that same company, though, wanted the intense experience later. So they wanted them to kind of gradually get into it and then pick an area, and then they could go into a specific project.
Great.
So that seemed to be really good for the student, too.
And therein lies actually, I think, a big argument for cooperative education in many ways, because you're going in cycles, and the first one you're kind of getting in the lay of the land and so forth, and then go back into school, and then you go back out, and you're already at a different place. You're starting from a different place. So yeah, I think that has a lot of value to it, absolutely. Anybody else want to comment?
I'm Rod Shook with Works Corporation. And I'll push the button. But in my experience, for the short-term, sporadic hours per week internship, if it's a fixed project that has a defined beginning and a defined end, it's easier on the student and it's easier on us as the employer, because if they work 4 hours this week and 12 next week, depending on their schedule, it doesn't matter because we're looking at an end result. So in that regard, we found that to be more successful when the manager of the department can be very specific on what they want to get accomplished for that student.
Very good point. Again, that project-based work can be it can be successful. It's a win-win. It really is.
Another thing that we have found fairly successful, we just recently started using cooperative experiences in our quality control labs. And so a lot of time, these students may not be working on a specific project that takes the whole semester, but they're testing. They're working side by side with our analysts, and they're learning the exact same tests, and they're doing the same analysis, and they're doing the same documentation that our full-time analysts are doing. And what we've been successful at doing so far is once they've completed all of those co-op experiences, they know at the end of that time if lab-based work is something that they're interested in doing or not. Now, we try to filter in process improvement, continuous improvement type projects, challenge them. What do you see in this process that doesn't make sense? Make sure that you bring that to us so that we can work through that. But we have actually converted several into our lab, and they've come in at a higher level as a result of those cooperative work experiences, because they're so much further through our learning process after doing 3, 4, 5 rotations with us.
That's fabulous. Yes. Well, thank you all. I hope this helped to get us sort of, full of ideas to talk about this afternoon. Thank you.